Hello and welcome once again to my video, or if you're here for the first time, this is not a visual video at this point. I probably will get a camera and start making them, but for now I feel the sound is good for the purpose, and it can free you up to do other things too at times if you don't have to watch all the time. So I'm doing some little talks on tips for healers. That includes psychic readers, clairvoyant readers, any kind of healer, because if you work with your voice or you work with your hands or you send energy or you work with vibrational medicine or other natural remedies and so on, being a healer to me means you have the intent to help. So I was a naturopath starting in 1982 for 3 years. And then after that I went into this field, so I've been a full-time reader since 1985. I actually started healing people with vibrational medicine in 1976, so I'm as old as the hills. And one of the things I will be doing is sharing, as I say, experiences and tips for people, who maybe haven't been doing this for so long, or which few people have, or who are beginning. And I will also do readings, so I would love it if you could like this video. I'd love it if you would subscribe to my channel, and then you will get new videos show up in your news feed. And if you have any questions, at the moment I'm kind of casting around for ideas because it's a new venture and I want to be putting out quite a lot of recordings, videos. So I don't care what it's about. It can be personal, it can be a small reading on something in your life. It can be about the energies on the planet or what's coming, or it can be looking into the past, because one of the things I can do is read the Akashic records. So basically, to me, that means you time travel and see what happened. But it also means you travel in space, because you could see what was going on the other side of the world. I do a lot of remote viewing, what's called remote viewing, which I think you guys probably know what that is, and telepathy, mind reading, which, I'm very selective about who I mind read. They've either got to have some kind of wicked agenda, or they've got to be of great interest. And to be in agreement, the baddies, I don't know, actually they're not even coy about coming forward, although you would think they're not going to get a lot of approval from my department, but there's a level where everyone seems to be open to communicate, no matter how dark or twisted or whatever. And they can very often be more straightforward coming from that level, not always. Some people are like that on every level, but, even people who I would say were pretty warped, having dark agendas, quite often you can actually connect with them on the astral plane, and they're quite forthcoming and cheerful. So I guess they're happier. The part of them that's not in the physical body is probably happier and therefore maybe a bit nicer. So anyway, back to this. So you can basically ask about anything, and I'd actually be most grateful if anyone can post questions in the comments. And I'm so new to doing videos on YouTube, I don't know if you can private message anyone here, but I must post a link to my page, because I am on Facebook under Rachel May, not Rachel May Reader, but just Rachel May, or Rachel's Clairvoyant Readings, or Clairvoyant Readings by Phone. They're two of my business pages on Facebook. So you can message me from any of those pages on Facebook if you happen to be there, and say you would like to set up a personal consultation, or if your question is a bit more private, I will protect your anonymity either by just using your first name, or you can give me an invented name. I really don't mind. It's just a matter of having real situations to work with, gives a lot more interest to. I like to be practical. I'm not that much of a theorist. I'm a very practical person as far as my work goes anyway. So hopefully this won't be the last time you'll hear my voice and be part of this, but if it is still, I do thank you for tuning in. So what I'm going to address right now, it's a short talk, but it's protection or psychic self-defense. I will probably do other talks on this, but there have been certain things that I've used. If you are a clairvoyant reader, we do deal with some untoward energies, some of us more than others. If you're very gifted, again, there can be jealousy. It can even motivate people to quite consciously send bad energy. And there's another thing that happens too. If your work has quite a bit of power, and you are liberating people, your work is liberating people to any, fairly substantial degree, and particularly if those people are starseeds who will then go out, or they may already be healers and so on, teachers, but they may be trying to get to that place where they can do their world service light work, and you're liberating them into that. You're part of what liberates them into serving the world, which is going to bring a lot more light on the planet and vanquish the dark. Then there is what some people call Team Dark. The other side they want control of the earth, and that's the bottom line. They can actually weaponize people. So if you have someone that's jealous of you, they might have a little jealousy, and I think if it's a denied jealousy that they don't acknowledge fully, it often does more harm than an acknowledged jealousy. But those people who are not totally on your side wouldn't be totally sorry, if to see you taken down a peg or two. Anyone like that around you can be used, and it literally is weaponization. They might be sending you a bit of bad energy from time to time when they have a negative thought about you, but the Team Dark can actually send a lot of bad energy through that person. And, I used to think they didn't really know it was happening. I think everyone knows everything that's happening, really. That's my take on it. So, again, they have some kind of level of knowing that they're running dark energy towards a person, even if most of it isn't coming from them. So that may be on the darker end of the scenario, for most people. Well, most people experience it at some point. There's no doubt about it. You have a colleague or a parent or a spouse, or some people it's even a child, someone who doesn't like you, and you get bad vibes from them, and it's quite a big cross that people bear sometimes with this. When they don't fully realize what's going on, I think it can do more harm in their life. So we'll look at that. We have looked at that just to identify it. I'm going to kind of run through some very simple earth magic. What is called earth magic is magic or a small ritual. It's not major spell work. I'm not crazy about major spell work. It's something I don't really like very much. I wouldn't do the bad spells, but even the good spells. Some people love it and, have a real propensity for that, and on the side of the light and helping and increasing prosperity, abundance and happiness and health and so on, it's an excellent thing. But it's not so much for me. I don't know why. I'm just funny about rituals. I have a very short attention span, which doesn't matter with psychic work, because to get the information you need most of the time is like the work of a second. It's to do with the sort of clarity of your focus, not to do with the duration of your focus, to get individual pieces of information. So fine with a short attention span, but when you come down to these spells where, powerful spells, which, they're really old ones. And I know people who've done them and got very powerful results. But they normally take weeks. You have to grind up your pollens and your incenses and make your gem elixirs and your incense oils and all these different things, and it has to be all astrologically correct, and you also have to have quite a big space to draw pentagrams on the floor and things like that. These powerful spells go on for weeks. There are times when they're necessary, but they won't be necessary for very many people. And there are other people who address those sort of very dramatic situations. For the moment, I'll leave that alone. But let's take a look at simple shielding and protective spells. Okay, number one, negative energy is always somewhere. I mean, probably if you go up to the top of a mountain where nobody goes, except maybe once every 5 or 10 years, and the sun shines on it and the rain falls on it, you're still on the planet. There's still some negative energy going around the planet, but you're probably going to be feeling extremely relaxed. And it's transformative because it allows all the EMFs to drain out of your energy field, out of your etheric body, which is your electrical body. It's going to allow a great release of stress and tension, frankly, negative energy and emotion that we actually pick up from others, because a lot of what we carry, we picked up from somebody else. So, you will come down from that mountain feeling very cleansed and refreshed. And that's probably one of the reasons you went up the mountain, because down here in the valleys and the working world and the normal human situations, you are surrounded by quite a bit of negative energy most of the time, much of the time. And it actually comes, it affects you by entering your energy field, which it does through your heart chakra and your crown chakra primarily. So if you feel at all sensitive to negative energy, being affected by those energy fields or things in other people's auras, or particularly, going into a place where there's somebody who doesn't like you, something like that, number one instruction is to close your chakras before you go there. I have a way to do it, which is simple. You can go online and Google it if you want more elaborate and fancy methods. I just start at the crown chakra. I do a circle with a cross in it over the crown chakra. I usually put my index finger, and it's easier to point than to think. An inch or two away from the crown chakra, draw a circle, a little cross, like a gun sight, all the way down. But you don't need to worry about the base chakra, which is on the front of the pubic bone, because that is safe to be open all the time, because it just basically connects us to the planet and absorbs earth energy. But third eye, throat, heart, solar plexus, hara or sacral, all those chakras. If you're having any trouble with people or energy, close them previous to going out or into any crowded environment. And it's actually a good health practice. If you're going to the store or anything, it's actually a very good health practice. If you're going somewhere where nearly everyone you meet will like you or loves you or cares about you, you will be surrounded by a lot of protection from that, and they will have protection from you. So the congenial environments would normally be safe in terms of energy. Although there is another thing, which is EMF or ELF, extra low frequency energies, inimical to our energy, and stores have Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi is not good for you. They have computers. They have all kinds of things that have fields that, depending on your strength and your health, can be undermining to your health. And definitely Wi-Fi, I won't have Wi-Fi. I realize it's difficult if you have many people using computers in the same home, or more than one person perhaps, or, then you need a router. So another protective thing you can do is get Orgonite, pieces of Orgonite, which you can buy. It's not terribly expensive. It sucks in negative energy, it recirculates it and bounces it around inside itself until it's turned into positive energy or life force energy, and it shoots it out the top via a crystal, which if you make them, you put the crystal near what would be the top or the point. And you can put lots of crystals in them. I've made about 60 pounds of Orgonite. You can go on Amazon and buy it. You can go on Facebook and buy it. You can go into New Age stores and buy Orgonite pendant that you hang over your heart chakra, wherever your heart chakra. Very protective energetically. There are protective devices you can buy. And the fact is, I've used a lot of them because I'm super sensitive. However, eventually I find a good one. Eventually they stop producing it. The person passes or something. And I don't know what's really available out there. Unfortunately, it's very weird actually. I feel that a lot of the innovative things that were available in the 80s and 90s. And even in the early 2000s, I think it's actually getting harder to find products. But Orgonite is a totally ace product. Not very expensive to make. It stinks. You need to make it outside or have a fan. But it's cheap to make. You can get a gallon of the resin you use for $40, or you can get a nicer resin for $100. Although I have had people get a clear resin cheaper than $100, quite cheap. Someone said they were getting it for $40. I just didn't find that myself. But for that, with your metal filings and your crystals that you use to make Orgonite in molds and so on, what is it? A gallon is 8 pounds in weight. The metal in the crystals is at least another 8 pounds. So, for that money you make 16 pounds of Orgonite, and a piece that probably weighs about 6 ounces. It's always been said to be enough to protect an entire house and possibly even an entire city block. The negative EMFs with the 5G and so on have been stepped up recently, and people are finding that they're having to use more Orgonite in less clean environments, city environments and so on, or with cell phone towers. So it's shifting again, unless you keep on top of it, everything changes very fast. But I strongly recommend Orgonite. I have about 15 pounds of it in this room with me. You don't need that much, but as I say, people who do what I do can be somewhat targeted energetically. And I like having it in my room, lots of it, 8 ounces or 1 pound weight of Orgonite for most people would be plenty and absolutely fantastic. I live on a ranch. There's probably 50 pounds buried in the earth here and there. Again, we needed it here. It's a power spot. It's been a target over the years, way before I came here. Someone who's been doing dark stuff here, because it's actually a very important light spot on the planetary grid, which will attract people who want to feed off the energy, and sooner or later they or people they attract start doing dark stuff, using the energy to get things they want by nefarious means energetically. And so you do get some dark energy in the ley lines and so on. And I did years of clearing it. Well, it was quite a lot because it was coming all the time. It's being sent. And now I've got all these organites buried everywhere. I've got some buried on the ley lines. They're a bit stronger when you bury them in the earth, but it's part of it. It helps. In most situations, that would be plenty. It would be fantastic. So then let's come down to a little bit of earth magic. And by the way, something comes to mind here. Taking very good care of your physical health is very important, particularly as you move into doing light work. You become increasingly sensitive. So the only way to really enjoy the journey is to become increasingly strong and healthy. Organic food as much as possible. I'm not saying rigid dieting for most people. Lots of people think that, they talk about a clean diet, which is sort of sprouts and vegetables and maybe some tofu. A vegan diet. In fact, most people don't seem to do very well on a vegan diet. It has its uses. Many of us can only really function with quite heavy animal proteins most of the time, and if that is you, honor your body, do what you have to do. I do think that the more we honor our body, the faster we will get to a state where we need less and less material ingestion of foods and so on, substances. But I don't see it happening to very many people yet. Eventually we will eat flowers and we will live on sunlight, and you can do sun gazing. That's a marvelous technique. You can look it up online if you don't know about it. Absolutely marvelous. It will clear your energy. It will nourish you. It will start to turn your body to being able to live directly on light. So it grounds in your light body. It makes you feel very good, and it's free. So you can read about it. You can, for sure, go on YouTube and you're here right now. But there will be videos about sun gazing. There will be web pages and so on. Marvelous technique. It will advance your spiritual growth. When we come down to, here's some quiet little spells. Okay, freezing. First thing, if someone's against you. None of these spells cause any harm to, anyone that might be not totally positive towards you or anyone. Freezing their name. Many people know this one. You write the person's name on a piece of paper. You put it in a jar of water. You screw, and I like the screw top jar myself. I have a better feeling about it than other closures. You screw on the top and you put it in the freezer. And a little more strong one would be write the person's full name and address, if you know it, on a strip of paper, starting at the top 9 times. Keep folding it over. Tie it with a red cord, or I've used a red cotton, just a red string. I don't think the size of it is so important. But a red cord is traditional. And again, pop it in a jar of water and screw the top on and freeze it. Here's another one. Same thing with the paper. Write the person's name, address if possible, on a strip of paper. Keep folding it over till you've got it written 9 times. And 9, of course, is the number of endings. Put it in your right shoe. And I had to use like Scotch tape or even duct tape, just so it wouldn't shift about. And every step you take, when you put your foot on the ground, you walk them out of your life. I mean, you're going to remember every step you take, but when you can remember, just see that you're walking this person out of your life. And then after 3 days, you take that out of your share and you tear it up and throw it in the river. And if you don't have a river, personally, because sometimes I don't live near a river, I flush it down the toilet. Still running water, right? And it's quite pleasantly symbolic, so I'm sure it's not completely useless. Let me see any other earth spells that I know of. Those are ones I've done. I don't, they're good for mild problems. For a full-on demonic attack, it wouldn't really do much. Now, if you're having trouble with a person or people, whether it's just dislike or a bad feeling or resentment or interference in your life or rumor spreading, which is a nasty one, the psychopath's favorite trick of harming you while befriending anyone who might support you, which only works, obviously, if there are people in your life who are not super people, but in most people's lives there are people who are not super people, is blessing them. Every time you feel negative energy, you send them love, you send them good wishes, you really open your heart. And that is very powerful, because what's being sent that you don't like the feeling of, it can't stand up to that. It falls back. It either goes back to them or it dissipates into the light. Sometimes the person will start to change. It doesn't always happen, but it can happen. I had a neighbor who was doing black magic against me. She wanted to get me away, get me somewhere else. For 2.5 years, once every 48 hours, she would do a spell. And when I started making the Orgonite, because I know that she is quite disturbed, but most of it was sort of, she was being interfered with, and entities were coming in and really making her believe that I was her enemy, and if I wasn't here, her life would be super happy and all that stuff. I could only get to 3 corners of her property. I put big pieces of Orgonite on each corner. They're still there. And the next time she did the spell work, from being tortured, it was, like 10% of what it had been. She never did it again. And then after a while, she came to visit me and she said, I'm really trying to be a better person. And she gave me a hug and gave me $20. I feed a lot of feral cats. She gave me $20 to help feed the cats. And she hasn't, that was, I don't know, 2-3 years ago. She has not done anything against me. In fact, she's done some kind things. So it's not true that nobody changes, but it is true that some people don't change. Some people have bad in them and they have good in them. And if they have any redeeming qualities, and this person does, she really cares about animals and she rescues them. And she has some other good qualities, like a very high IQ and quite a lot of talent, as well as she's kind of got problems. If the person has redeeming qualities, those may expand. If not, they will kind of have to move away from you in a way, because it will start to feel very bad to them when they send you negative energy or bad juju. So if you can really, even if only in short bursts, wholeheartedly send love and good wishes and kindness and warmth and light and healing, what they do is up to them, but it should keep the darkness away from you. Beyond that, if anything is more serious, at this point I would say go to someone who's more of a specialist. But I find a lot of people, because I have looked on YouTube and websites and so on, people who protect against black magic, but I would say most of them were black magicians. I did have, the energy just looks bad and it feels bad and it's not going to help you, and they will probably stiff you for huge amounts of money. I had a wizard counteract a very bad black witch for me once. He was very leading, very serious wizard. He did white magic, very hard work to do these things against very serious attack. But he was seriously trained as a light wizard, a white wizard, and they can't charge. You can't pay them. And in fact, his health was not all that strong. And I think the one that he offered to do for me left him pretty tired. So and also he's a pretty rare bird. They do exist, but there aren't that many. And for most of you, it's unlikely to be an issue. In fact, I've worked with people who have had serious bad juju sent against them by an ex-husband or something like that, usually. And they get a reading. I still find that, it's not really the thing I love to do, but I will do it for a good person to get them out of a hellhole. But the last time I did it, yes, I found out who was doing it. Well, she thought, I think it was her ex-husband. I found out where the spells were located. They were one was in the back of a framed picture. When he left stuff there. And this woman was having a very bad time. So, she took the picture and she smashed it up and she threw it away, and she... we looked all around and all the things she had to do. I thought, got very attacked for doing that. And, I know that I was kind of ill for about 3 days. So as I say, it's not my favorite thing. I don't charge people huge amounts of money. I charge what I charge for the time I spend with the person on the phone. And if you go out there in internet world, there are people charging hundreds and even thousands of dollars. And they were bad, these people, the man and his mother. They were black witches, no doubt about it. And they were quite strong. They were doing voodoo. That's probably why I got ill, why I got very attacked. Because these things are complex. As I say, it's not my favorite thing. But, I did it for a friend of a friend. And then, she actually, totally took it for granted, really. So I think I did mention it to the friend. It's I said, very glad to help people who are innocent, but she, got literally no interest in me as a person. It's like I don't exist. I just served a purpose. So I think if I ever did anything like that, I don't know, be very careful. I'm not sorry I helped her. She probably would be really ill by now. But you give and you give and you give, and sometimes that's another thing you have to watch, is protecting your own energy. And I think that the ability to judge character, I'll help anybody. I don't scrutinize everybody completely that I help. I just feel guided to help them. Most people who come into my life, I check them out very carefully. I have a strong ability to judge character. If you don't have it, it's worth developing. If you have a problem there, you probably have emotional problems from childhood and past lives. And you can come to somebody like me or some other healer who works with the emotional body and get help working through your stuff, if you're not able to move it on your own, because you can't go through life being victimized because you're unwary. And usually if that's happening, you're covering up for somebody in your past. So you can imagine. And often when you're very young, so you don't remember events or what people did or whatever. And you can trace it back to previous lives too. If it happened here in this life, it happened in other lives. And it's usually the same people. So there's a very big journey there of self-knowledge. And if you take the spiritual path, and you're serious, you're a real person, you're working on yourself, it's a real journey, because the things you need to heal will come up in your face. And they will for everybody, but a lot faster for people like us, people who did this kind of thing, are going to be more challenged. And that's why, the real readers and the real, serious healers are very strong people. They're very strong people. And most of them are very bright. Some of them, some of them are not intellectual, but they're really marvelous healing through their hands and things like that. Some of us are more intellectual, like we need to understand everything. And maybe if you need to understand absolutely everything, you will burn out sooner. But at the same time, in terms of having useful information to communicate, you're probably going to end up with a lot of useful information. And it also, helps you in your work. Every person that you help, if they present you with something new, which hopefully they will do, it's a new thing to learn, it's a new string to your bow, it's part of your box of tricks or tools that then other people with a similar area of difficulty will come to you, and so on. So then you may end up working more and more like a kind of therapist, as well as that you're doing the psychic stuff. But that's good. The more strings to your bow, the better. Because if someone, maybe someone's very evolved, they're very sensitive, they have had intense attacks, serious difficulties, maybe quite serious health problems from it, it's very, very hard for them to find someone who can actually get the whole picture for them. And the person who can will probably be the person who's cured a whole lot of ills in their own life. So I think that you go forward cautiously, perhaps with some caution or awareness, keeping your eyes open at the same time, fearlessly, moving forward fearlessly, expecting the process of life to bring you what you want. At the moment, I'm feeling like I'm nearly complete with this. If you want more sort of earth magic and rituals and so on for protection, you can find hundreds and hundreds of them online. And my criterion is, do I like the energy of the person who's sharing this? Do I feel their motivation is positive? It's not hard to tell, and if you're wanting to develop this way, you've got to be able to feel what's going on in your energy field. So the ones that are out to use you, there's, even their videos and so on suck the life out of you. They suck energy. The energy sucks. Where the ones that are giving, you get a lovely feeling in your heart chakra. It's almost like your chakras open like flowers. You experience increased light. If you're going to go into this field, if you're not already clear about these things, which would mean you're quite a beginner in some ways, get very clear about reading your own body and energy fields responses to people. In fact, that's perhaps the number one. Protection. And obviously I know no one listening to this ill wishes people. I mean, okay, we have had our moments where, you know, a negative emotion towards someone. But all of you on this path, or in my experience, where I'm coming from, what I'm talking to, if you ever experience something like that, you go to the light, or you send that to the light. You correct that emotion if there was any negative intention there, and you move on. You know, and I know that some of you listening to this probably never had. I don't know. I mean, I think of the most mild and generous and unconditionally loving people I've ever met, and they are healers. You know, whether they have their shingle out or they just have a good effect on everyone they meet, they're healers. There probably are people who never had a bad thought about anybody. I don't know for sure. There are certainly people who very rarely, but these very innocent and kind people often get the rough end of the stick, the short end of the stick. You know, just because they're closer to God in a way, they get more jealousy, and they often get treated badly. You know, and everyone has their breaking point. But anyway, you know what I mean. We do the best that we can. We do the best that we can to turn the other cheek, return good for evil, do what we can to help make the world a better place. And to give, not to give to the point where you have nothing left for yourself. You also, if you're going to take care of others, you equally have to take care of yourself. But what you will find is as you go on and your spiritual connections get stronger, and you'll find that you're tremendously protected. So in other words, for the truly good person in this time historically, by and large, the worst never happens. By and large, most of those people have had quite a lot of struggle. So anyway, I hope this has been some use to you. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope we get to connect again. If you want a private reading, you know, do please message me somewhere. And as I say, if you've got questions, if you can like this video and subscribe to my channel, I'll be very, very grateful to you, and thank you very much.